Yes, we're asking Disco beer review with me, Disco, coming at you with another beer video from in front of the cans and bottles here on the bar that I'm still humorously calling the Disco Arms. As you can see, I'm joined by two guests today. First of all, above me, that side is Scott Doonican from the Bar-Steward sons of Val Doonican.
Hello.
And above me there is Simon Brown from Nuttycombe Brewery. Welcome, gentlemen.
Afternoon all.
Thanks for joining. First of all, I think I'm going to start probably with the beer first of all. I was wondering where to start, but start with, firstly, can I get the pronunciation right? Is it Nuttycombe, Nuttycombe, or Nuttycombe?
Nuttycombe.
Nuttycombe. Excellent.
So it's basically any way you like, as long as you're drinking the beer.
As long as we're ordering it, yeah, it's fine. Well, I have ordered some, and I'm very pleased. I have had this a couple of bottles over last weekend, and I shared a couple with friends as well. So I'm going to crack into it to start off with.
I suppose it would be rude of me not to join in.
Yeah, you can have a quick half there, Scott. Be lovely.
It would be very rude of me not to join in. There's a bottle behind you. That's not Nuttycombe.
I know. I've got to fill it with water if you want.
If the MD was any sort of a decent chap, he'd actually go and get me one out of the fridge, wouldn't he? But that, it's just what you've got to put up with.
Yeah,
I should have been more prepared.
He'd go and do your deliveries for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So Simon, I guess I say we start with the beer and the brewery. Do you want to tell me just a little bit about the brewery first of all, where you've started, where you've got to, where you're going?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, for those of you that don't know, I'll go back to the original. The brewery is actually what was Cotley Brewery in Wiveliscombe, which had been brewing for 40 odd years, 42 years, I think, and had a massive, great following. Unfortunately, along the way, one or two things happened. They had a tie-up with a certain rather large pub chain. And then COVID hit, and the rather large pub chain decided to cancel the order for 800 firkins.
Wow.
And that realistically at the end of the day was the nail in the coffin for poor old Cotley.
Yeah.
There was just no coming back from that. So that put us in a situation where Cotley was available to purchase as a whole from the administrators. They didn't really want to break the place up. They wanted to turn around and try and sell it as a complete brewery going. And we were really, really lucky, or I was very, very lucky.
All right.
Thank you, boss. That's the boss. To be able to, he didn't open it or give me a glass or anything, but I'll have to just, that way around.
Excellent style.
Cheers. So so Ross Nuttycombe, which is where the brewery name comes from, who's the owner of the Star Inn at Watchet, who's been there about 16 years now, decided that he was going to go for it, take it on lock, stock and barrel. As the lady from HMRC, when we were dealing with them at the very start, turned around and said, "Who the bloody hell starts a brewery up in a recession?" That's Ross Nuttycombe, and he asked me to come and join him as his operations manager to turn around and sort of basically run the brewery on a day-to-day basis. So that's sort of where we came from, and we started back in April, where we took the keys to the place and started our first brews back then.
Superb. And you've got quite a few brews going. Was it therefore not quite a standing start? You had obviously a little bit to be contending with, like stock wise, or ready to get on?
There was nothing, basically. We just had what was effectively, after 18 months of the place being shut down, you could say it was derelict equipment to deal with. So everything had to be serviced, everything had to be put back to life again. We had to replace seals and washers and God knows what around the place. Everything obviously had to be fully cleaned. We had to decorate the whole brewery from top to bottom. Everything had to be bleached, washed, caustic washed, painted. So between all of us, we did that. Everyone just mucks in here. It's a team. We're all, there's no hierarchy. It's a bit like the band, the boys down there. There's no real hierarchy. It's the effort of all of you together. And so we just all jumped in together and made it work. And then we were very, very fortunate. The larger gentleman of the three of us that you saw walk through a second ago is the head brewer, and he was the head brewer at Copley. We managed to get him back. He knows the equipment, so he gave us a jump start really on how to get ourselves going and off the ground. When we spoke to him originally, February of this year I should say, we gave him a remit of coming up with 7 new recipes, of which we could then choose our core brands out of those 7, and then following on from that, another 8 recipes that we could potentially look towards looking at seasonals from as we progress forward. And so he joined us at the very start, and we put our first brew together, which was called Sovereign, that went out 2 days before the Jubilee.
Nice timing, nicely done.
By far.
And then, so how did Doonicans beer fit into that plan?
Ross, the MD, is a lager drinker, primarily. Does like his real ales. He's not averse to a real ale, but Ross is primarily a lager drinker. And realised that one of the issues, having a pub that's got 6 real ale pumps on it and is a CAMRA pub of the year many years over, understood his ales and understood his sales, but realised that there was that space in the market to bring lager drinkers back to real ale potentially, but also to bring the younger new drinkers in. One of the things that we need to do with real ales is get it attractive to a younger audience. You know, it's not just a middle-aged pipe smoker with a pair of slippers on at the bar with a couple of Springer Spaniels like I am. It's you know, we need to get this out to a broader audience. There are a lot of ladies out there that like real ale. So again, to try and bring something down to try and reach palates that haven't been reached before. So it was our second brew, and he said to the brewer, I want to brew a lager beer. So the brewer turned around and basically said, I don't know if I really want to.
Weirdly enough, out of the 3 of us, Alan and myself are generally real ale drinkers. Bjorn's the lager drinker in amongst us. Obviously, that must be because he's Swedish, but he's always been more of a lager ale kind of drinker in the first place, and he really liked it. And as real ale drinkers, I was a little bit skeptical at first when you said that it was going to be almost like a lager beer, and I have to say it's really refreshing. And when it's conditioned in the bottles, it's absolutely gorgeous.
We when it really came down to it, so we did the first brew, which is cask only, and we all stood there and tasted it and went, my God, we've nailed this. Now that sounds like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but you know, all us at the brewery. But I mean, this was a collaborative, you know, chat together with everyone: the dray, the sales, the delivery, the brewer, you know, myself as operations, the MD, all stood there together, going, actually, we've got something really good here. We're going to have to bottle this without a shadow of a doubt. This chilled is brilliant. Now, at the time, we'd inherited a bit of Cotley's IPA. And for those of you that know the logo, this is the IPA logo from Cotley. So this was our nod back to them and the history of them, and not to forget it, although we're completely different and new. So I chucked some of the Cotley IPA in the fridge and at home, and I was sort of drinking, because I think we got probably about 15 or 20 cases that came over that were just about still in date. We couldn't do anything with it. Take them all home, we'll have them at home. And I found the IPA chilled was just a cracking drink to go home and drink to. And when we did the Doonicans, and we knew that was the region that we were looking at going down, that very pale summer ale, and when we realized we'd nailed it, it was a no-brainer to bottle it. So that was like, literally, we're going to do another brew. Now, for those of you who don't know about bottling, when you bottle a beer and you slightly carbonate it, well, it doesn't matter how much you do, but when you carbonate it, you will lose some of that flavor that you get from the original cask brew. So the brewer had to slightly over hop it, very, very small amount, early on in the brew and late on in the brew, just to turn around and maintain that level of flavour that you get from the cask, which you obviously tried, Scott, down at Washford when you were down there, and I brought the cask down for some. And he's got it. He nailed it perfectly. We sent it off to bottling, and the bottling plant even turned around and said themselves, given this is our first bottled beer that we've ever done, they said themselves that this was probably one of the best beers they've ever bottled. So we were quite confident when that came back.
That's definitely a high bar to set, but you're right. To be fair, I think me and Scott had a brief conversation before, but we're sort of at kind of opposite ends of the real ale beer scale. That Scott, you said you were more into sort of hoppier beers.
Oh yeah, the hoppier the better for me.
Yeah,
so to be honest, the hoppy end, the kind of citrusy end, I just think it's a great pint.
Yeah. Whereas I'm not. I'm very much unhoppy beers, even in my pale ales. I've never. I don't like grapefruit, so I don't like that kind of citrus flavour in a beer. I don't mind lemon though, so I think this gives quite a good balance between those two traditional pale ale flavours. It's a slight smack of grapefruit, but doesn't go too wild. But there's definitely a hoppy undertone to it. There's a little bit of lemon for balance.
It was, well, we brewed it using a lager malt. So that was the one bit to get us down to that lager style, if you like.
Yeah.
But it was brewed with a melon hop. And one of the things that we picked up on it was when we first tasted it on that first nose was pineapple. Just that little hint of pineapple on the nose. And that's when we sort of realized that we'd got the sweetness, but without the citrusy.
Yeah.
And we'd still retained enough of a hop in there that you'd still got a good flavor to it on the mouth feel, on the tongue. And it just worked. And chilled, it just is, you know, absolutely perfect. And so far I've tried it with quite a few different foods as well along the way. You know, tried it with a curry, perfect. We've actually even got it into Indian restaurants already now. Tried it with a barbecue, perfect. You know, so
in a way, it's kind of perfect timing for coming out with this hot weather. When they first dropped, took some over to a couple of friends. They bunged them in the fridge, and it is just nice and refreshing for the hot weather. It's a little bit cooler this week, but that still applies.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it sits there at the 4.2, sort of 4.3 mark as well.
Yeah,
it's not overly strong. It's you know, it's not your 3.8, 3.9 session beer, but it's still, you know, in the realms of it's okay to carry on through the afternoon and be sensible with it. None of us are sensible. I don't know what we're on about, but you know, it just drinks nicely, doesn't it?
absolutely. What would you say the difference, or what would you prefer, Scott? Having tried both, cask or bottle, or does it not really matter?
I prefer it in the bottle, particularly when, like Simon said, when it's chilled, it is really refreshing. The cask's very nice. We all partaken. I don't know what's the past tense of partake? Partake.
Yeah, partook.
Yeah, we did. We partook in. Well, we drank a fair bit of it. Is what I was going to say. We did a gig down at Washford Memorial Hall in Watchet. Was it last month? It was last month, wasn't it?
10 months ago, yeah.
And Simon brought down a full keg of it, and it went. I mean, they sold out of it within a couple of hours. The whole thing just went. Because I think the fans really enjoyed it. I think there was quite a few of them that were saying that, you know, they're looking forward to Watch It Festival if this is going to be on the bar. One of them did say it probably could get a bit messy. So yeah, we're quite proud to actually put a name to it. You know, because you know we do like a drink as a band. So I think to have our names on a, you know, on a good beer is quite special.
I mean, that's got its own story to it as well, because we sat there. It's one of those beers that you taste it and you're like, what the hell am I going to call this? There is nothing out there like this. It's not an IPA. It's not a gold. And even if it were a gold, there's so many out there, you don't want to call it gold. It's not lager. You know, what the hell are we going to call it? And we looked at it and we came up with 2 or 3 names. No, it doesn't work. And I was quite happily snoozing in my bed at early hours of the morning. Woke up, it must have been about 4:45. I woke up and I'd just gone, I've got the name for it. And I shot into work early that morning and messaged Scott. And I'm like, right, mate, how do you fancy a beer named after the band? He said, yeah, we've had a couple of those done before, you know, little short run of a few bottles or a few cans or a few whatever, you know. And I went, no, a national brand. What? No, a national brand. We're going to take this national. This is going to be a core brand. And
I have to say, Morris approves as well. Very Morris.
So I mean, it was literally, it was. There's a madness to the beer, if you know what I mean. It shouldn't be right. You shouldn't have a beer that actually tastes like lager, or a lager that tastes like real ale in the other way around, or whichever. It shouldn't work in maybe the traditional sense of brewing, but it does.
In many respects, there was method in the madness there.
Yeah, exactly. And it just struck me that there's only one real name I can come up with, because I couldn't think of anything else on this planet that's as mad as the Bar-Stewards Sons of Val Doonican and the music. And it just brought back memories of crowd surfing with dinghies at Watch It and all the things that sort of go on with the boys.
It has just occurred to me, I might have to do, like when we put this out, I might have to do a little bit of explanation about the Bar-Stewards Sons of Val Doonican for those non-Doonican fans who might be watching this, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I can tell, Simon, I don't think Scott will mind me saying this, but when I was doing a bit of research for this, I can tell Scott did like the beer because he's put it on the suggestions list for the Doonicans rider on the website, I happen to notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, Scott, explain this one.
Well, basically, we for years we never really had a rider as a band, because I always just think it's a really easy way to kind of scam free stuff out of festival organisers, and I like us to try and be, you know, like whenever the people say, "Oh, Dave Grohl, he's the nicest man in rock," which I've never understood, because at the end of the day, you know, it's not hard not to be nice to people. It takes more of an effort to be nasty. But I like the idea that, you know, we're Dave Grohl's kind of folk counterparts. You know, I like to think that we're the nice guys of folk, and to be that kind of band, you know, you've got to be amenable and friendly and approachable, and at the same time, you don't want to act like a diva. And that's why generally I've never understood why bands have these ridiculous riders. Because at the end of the day, if you're getting paid enough to do the gig, then you buy your own beer. You know, that's always been my kind of thoughts. The band don't agree with me on this, by the way. Because and obviously, if they can get a free drink, they're even happier. Not that I'm not averse to somebody getting us a drink. Cheers. But now, when we got the, you sent us a case each of it in the bottles, because we tried it in the cask, and straight away that night I just thought, well, I'm going to stick it in the fridge now as soon as it arrived. I thought it'd be nice and chilled by this evening. I'll enjoy a pint of it. It was cracking. And as soon as I'd had the first pint, I just thought, I need to go and update the rider. So now on the rider, it does say, it has like the list of ridiculous demands that we never get and that we never expect. But then at the bottom, it just says, you know, usually we ask for, you know, 2 bottles of real ale each. And we usually say, you can choose. But what I've now added is, you can choose, but if you really want to impress us, go for this. And we've actually put a link to the brewery shop.
Will you have to rewrite the song though, Scott?
Yeah, there is a song called Doonicans Rider, which came as a result of us doing Glastonbury a few years ago, and we'd never been asked what our rider was until we did Glastonbury. So we wrote the most ridiculous rider, and it is on our website. So if you go on our website at www.thebarsstewards.com/contact, if you go on the contact page, you can actually see the rider on there and just see how ridiculous it really is. But yeah, if you're going to be in a folk rock and roll band, then you may as well have, you know, an element of rock and roll to it.
Talking of ridiculous, I'm going to ask a ridiculous question, even though I know the answer, probably obviously because of, you know, timings and starting. But was there ever any consideration to bringing out Doonicans rather than bottles?
A few people mentioned this.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I know why. I'm guessing in terms of, you know, starting out and you're predominantly looking at bottles to start off with, which is understandable.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is don't think for 1 minute that didn't go through my brain at 5 o'clock in the morning. When I woke up with a ridiculous idea of calling it after the boys. But
I mean, that is definitely a Dooney bottle rather than a Dooney can.
oh yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. You know, straight away it was like, yeah, Dooney-can would have been absolutely perfect, but unfortunately at the moment the cost of canning at the levels that we're doing bottling at is just it's prohibitive. Bottling for us using a small, you know, really good craft bottling company who have been, you know, absolutely spot on excellent with us and looked after us so well as our first venture into bottling, you know, without being silly expensive, so we can keep the price at the right level, competitive in the market. You know,
my brother is quite the real ale enthusiast, as well as he does lots of design work for different breweries in terms of their artwork. Because now I know a lot of the craft beer stuff has quite cartoony designs and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff he does. But he did come down and sample a bottle of this the other night and really enjoyed it. But what he did say was, he says he was really impressed with, you know, for the first bottling, actually how professional the actual labelling and you know, he just said he says they're decent labels them as well. He says they're not the cans that just peel off. He says they're really good ones.
Oh yes, well, it does look proper smart.
I will take the compliment, that one myself, because, but I will tell you, actually, I just copied a lot of stuff that I found. But with the actual label itself, I always had this thing about I wanted the label to look right. So one of the things that took us right away from the start was the Hawk's Head. And when in the purchase of Cotley's assets from the administrators, it included all the intellectual property rights. So yes, we actually own the rights to all the beers and all the artwork and everything. It came as a job lot. And the minute I saw the Hawk's Head, I just turned around and went, we've got to retain it, because we've got to retain something here in Wiveliscombe that's in memory of Cotley. They've been here a long time. We've also got Exmoor Brewery around the corner, and we've got another pub that brews itself.
Close up on
so Wiveliscombe's always been a brewing town, and we don't want to step on people's toes. We wanted to turn around and keep that going through. But not only that, the Hawk's Head itself is just such a stunning logo. The biggest problem with it, it's on to get the best out of it, it's on black. It has to be on black.
Yeah.
So to get a label that worked on the bottle, the Hawk's Head has to be big, it has to be prominent, but the label then needs to be tactile and feel right. It can't be plasticky, it can't be anything else. It needs to have an age to it as well. Yeah. And we managed to do that by using a wine bottle label as the material.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That explains it. Well, it works. It does work. Because we spent a lot of time, didn't we, like discussing the kind of the branding, how it was going to look and all that kind of thing.
So I'll show you. I'll just sneak over to one side a minute. So we started off with this one, which was taken obviously from the artwork that we could find for the band and everything else. But we ended up for the pump clip with a bit of jiggery poke. So that's the one for the pump clip, which is the three boys wearing their absolutely amazing paraphernalia. Now I've sent them a free case of beer up. I'm waiting for my free tank top to come back, obviously the other way around, ready for festival. So
it's not a merch line yet, is it?
The
Doonicans sweatshop is working hard overtime.
Yeah, so we got one of those down here as well. Yeah. So that was it. So that was the way that sort of like the labelling went, and that's really just how the whole thing came about with the Doonicans name. It was just that collaborative work between me and Scott to get things that work right between the two of us. The wording on the bottles, the wording on the website and everything else, just so that we could, you know, we just both wanted to say, I mean, we've been very lucky that Scott has been extremely gracious and isn't charging us a fortune to use the name or anything else like that, which he was quite within his rights to do. This has been very much a case of mates helping mates out along the way, and just hoping that it then moves into a different realm later on.
I think, like anything else, though, it's in the word, isn't it? Collaboration. The idea that two completely different forces coming towards each other and working together to actually create something bigger than the sum of its parts, and that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we like a drink and we like a good laugh, and we do like we like the culture of drinking and the social aspect of it. So to combine that with our usual fairly anarchic brand of comedy, and then having a beer to go with it, that's never going to be a bad thing. I've always said, if you want it to be hilarious, just add beer.
Absolutely, but of course, then when you go worldwide, you take us with you along the way, and it's a free ride for us. So it's a perfect match.
Did you realise you probably should have gone for like a band like Coldplay, who are already fairly established and they're incredibly dull?
I don't like their music, so.
Here we are, because we
Edit that one.
I tell you what, I'm at the bottom of my pint, and although I know you guys can't, I'm more than willing to have another one for you. So I'm just a reasonably good amount of lacing on the glass going down as well. So looking like a good beer. So I'm going to crack a second one. And test
I am getting
of it being a session afternoon ale. Now you've got these bottles on out and about. So is there any other plans for other bottles any other beers to be bottled and go on the web shop?
Yes, so one of the things that we always wanted to do from the start was put a range across our first 6 or 7 that really emphasised who we were as a brewery and where we were going. What we also wanted to do was make sure we never ever took away from the brewer the passion to brew good beer. Now, I've said right from the start, and I'm a firm believer, and I'll stand by it all the way down the line, a brewer is like an artist, and if you can give that person, that artist, the ability to turn around and put their passion into what they're doing, you will get the best out. And obviously we've got to give parameters. There's got to be the financial aspects of everything in the way. There's got to be all the bits that a business needs to still deal with. But by turning around and saying to Sean, look, mate, just really go out there and think about this as being what you want to do, and then bring it to us, and then we'll say, yes or no, according to what it costs realistically at the end of the day. So we started off, like I said, with Sovereign, which was just a really nice, plain, simple, get us off the ground beer, which has turned out to be loved by everyone, and we're actually going to continue to brew it. Doonicans came across next. There you go. This is what the boss wants, is that lager beer that really works. Done it.
Absolutely.
We needed to put a, if you want to call it a boring brown, call it a boring brown. We needed that mid-range best bitter style of beer in there. Every brewer needs it. Every brewery needs it. So we did just one more, a nice 4%, sits nice, tastes nice. We've sold out of it already. We've got a brew. We're brewing again shortly with that one. Then we knew that we wanted to turn around and take something up to another level, where we wanted to turn around and bring in something a bit stronger. We did do a 4.6 that we called Supreme, but we had a mechanical failure and we had to ditch the whole batch in the process. That one, that's for another day, because that's going to be a knockout when that comes right. But we wanted something up there at the 4.6, 4.8 mark. And Sean the brewer came back to us and turned around and said, I want to brew Newcastle brown ale, but it's not a brown ale. And we're like, you're mad. You're actually more barking than Scott from the Doonicans is, if you think you're going to get away with that one. And he said, no, seriously, I really want to do it. I've been wanting to do this forever and a day. So we said, yeah, go do it. It's within the remit of value. Let's go and do it, and let's see what it is. Well, it's called Progression. It's 4.8. It's stunning. He's done it. He's nailed it, and that will be bottled. That one.
Before, haven't it?
Sorry, Scott.
I've said it before. Do it, and they will come. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's the same with gigs. It's the same with beer. You know, do it, brew it, and they will come. There you go. There's your tagline straight away.
Totally. And yeah, I mean, it is. It's just I actually turned around and bought a bottle of Newcastle Brown Ale in, put it in the fridge, left it there a couple of days. And when Progression was ready to go, we tasted the two side by side. Now, it's not a Newcastle Brown Ale. It's a bitter. But you get your nose on it and you'll think it's Newcastle Brown Ale on the nose to start with. And then you taste it and it's completely different. And you just sit there and go, wow. I know this beer already. And I want more of it. I want to just keep going with this. And unfortunately, at 4.8, you probably fall over before you realise what you're doing. But that's the whole aim of the game sometimes. But it's just a cracking beer. It's not overly dark. It's a mid-late brown, but it works. We then turned around and knew that we had to come back a bit from there and brew something which was now going to be your session beers. We needed something down below the 4%. We needed something that was a lunchtime beer, and we brewed one called Cheers, and that is just really going mad. Everyone is loving it. You really wouldn't expect at 3.7 for it to have the flavors and the mouthfeel that it's got. It's amazing. It's a stunning ordinary brown bitter that really is just turning around and going completely. So my phone's going off there. I'll answer it later. It's the beauty of having it on silent. It just buzzes. And then we were sort of like, well, where do we go from this? We actually do need to turn around and bring something else in under the 4% mark. But again, it's going to have to be different. It needs to be something that is not run of the mill. So we've now got a 3.9, Ross? Hunky dory?
3.9.
Yeah, hunky dory. 3.9.
Deep ruby biscuit caramel malt.
Yep. If I'd got an earpiece, then you wouldn't have heard that. But a dark ruby, chocolate caramel malt. It's a porter, but it's still at 3.9.
Fruity forest aroma.
And it is just absolutely stunning again. Again, the brewer's done it. He's managed to turn around and put a dark beer under 4% that you can sit and quaff at lunchtime or drink with anything.
Fantastic. And presumably a lot of these, most of the costs, how far out are you getting from your West Country base in terms of, is it mostly local pubs, or are you getting quite far afield now?
No, we're still locally based as far as the majority of our pubs. I mean, bearing in mind that we've actually only been selling since the Jubilee.
Sure. Yep.
Effectively. The beer's been going out there, so we're now into over 130, I think it is, pubs around the southwest.
Fantastic.
We've got interest coming in from all over the country because we've still got the Cotley tie to the building and the name that we're still associated with what was out there. People know that we're looking for the old Cotley barrels because they're ours. And we keep getting emails coming in and people are saying, when can you get out? So we are working on now being able to turn around and get out to further afield. Obviously, Doonicans is available on the website, nuttycombebrewery.co.uk.
We'll put a link in the description below when this goes out. So,
so that's there. You go and order your Doonicans from there, and you will be able to order the other bottles as they all come online, obviously from there. And we are just looking at every way that we can now turn around and move ourselves out into a wider audience. So we've got a little thing coming up. We've got a farm shop. I can't go too much into information because it's early days, but we've got a farm shop that's approached us up in the sort of Buckinghamshire area, Bedfordshire area, that wants to take Doonicans up there primarily, but has offered us the ability to dispatch from there. So in other words, we can take orders at this end from that region, and we can then turn around and ship a single delivery up to there, and they will turn around and help to dispatch from there. So that's a way that we're looking at potentially being able to turn and spread ourselves further afield without having to increase the cost of the product because of transport costs. We're still running on vans, not lorries, so the amount we can take out in any one run is still fairly limited. So if we can turn around and put a 16-tonner up to one area, get them to deliver to somewhere where it can be either collected from or dispatched from, that's got the facilities, i.e., you know, some sort of refrigerated trailer. We can put the product up there. We can take orders from here. We can say, yeah, it'll all be in that area on this date. You can collect or arrange delivery from there.
That's great for me because Buckinghamshire is kind of next county over. Although being in London, I'm right in the far northwest of London, almost before it stops being come London. So not too far of a journey to a farm shop in Buckinghamshire.
But these are just ways in which we can do it. Obviously, everything we send out from here, as far as bottles goes, we put them on DPD, they're on an overnight or potentially DX Express, depending on quantity and et cetera, et cetera. But we're set up for delivery, not the next day.
Fantastic.
So,
do you know if you've got any beers going into any festivals that Scott and his band are doing? So
well, funnily enough, unsurprisingly, so yeah, I mean, we're very lucky. I have a small part to play in what happens at Watch It Music Festival every year. When Mark, the organizer there, knew that that I was coming into the brewery to do the job here, he straight away said, you know, like, if you guys are going to be ready for the festival, you can have your beers here. So we have every single one of our beers will be on at Watch It Music Festival on the August bank holiday this year. Scott's rider will be fulfilled. There's no two ways about it. I'll make sure, Scott, that your beer is there. We've got a couple of other things going on. We're at the Carew Arms our way this week at the weekend. They're taking a few of our beers down there for their little mini beer festival. We've done a couple of other small ones locally in Taunton. They've taken our beers on. So, and then we've got a really nice things happened actually. We've got a pub down near Exeter that is doing a food matching to our beers, and they've taken all the beers on for this Thursday, and we're down there at the Thatched House and doing a tasting session and meet the brewer.
Fantastic. That's a great way of getting all of the beers out together in one place as well.
Yeah. So we're very privileged that they've you know, looked at our brewery and said, actually, come on guys, we'll do something here for you. So, and it's really good. Really appreciate that.
Superb. Well, as I say, more than welcome. More than happy to get the beers in myself. It was an excellent piece of courier work. Got in very quickly, so I'm more than happy to. Obviously, I say I'll put the link in the description and stuff like that. And I've really enjoyed the beer. Scott, what else have you got lined up over the summer? What festivals are you at? What are you looking forward to?
So, depending on when this goes out, Fairport Convention's crop ready, which is a big gig for us because that's about 20,000 people in just one field on one stage. So that's going to be fun. And I think their bar's actually run by the Hook Norton Brewery. But I mean, you know, not everybody has Nuttycombe on their doorstep, I suppose. So maybe that's something that Simon can look into for a future one. From there to Beautiful Days in Devon, and then from there to Watch It. So, and then Watch It is technically the last one of what is in essence 5 weeks of living in fields. And then we come back for a fortnight, and then Bjorn and myself are going down to do Lou Live Festival. And then we start the winter tour about 4 weeks after that. You know, I say the winter tour, it starts in autumn and it just keeps going till Christmas. So we are going to be back down Simon's Way. We're doing Bridgewater Arts Centre, and it's already sold out. So that's quite nice. And for you, nearer to you, probably the Banbury Mill Arts Centre is the nearest place I get to.
Probably one I know. Well, a mate has got tickets for that already, but depending on what happens in the outside world, I would normally have been looking at going to several of those festivals, including Beautiful Days. I'm not at the moment, but I think Banbury is probably my closest and the one I'm most likely to see you at next, unless anything changes. So I'm looking
I know with the Banbury show, we must be mad, but we've booked 2 nights. It's the biggest night of the tour anyway. But we've already sold the first one out, more or less. There's only two orphan seats left in the venue, so we put on an extra night, and it's already shifting. So that's quite nice. I actually put all of our successes down to the fact that we've got a really nice ale named after us.
I'll take that one.
I do always like to mention that I kind of know how it feels. I did once get my nickname Disco on a beer, although there's lots of beers with disco I have a collection of beers with disco in the name, but my local brewery once did ask me what they wanted to, what did they think I should do with a sour, and I said cherries, and they did and put my name on it and called it Disco Duck. So I kind of know that feeling of having that name on a beer and how good it is. Although I haven't had quite the same, I don't have the same success and the same outreach as you do, Scott. So it is good to see, and it's fantastic. And as you say, it's a good beer to boot. So very pleased with it all round, I think.
Excellent. Well, I'll say cheers to that, and I'll
Cheers, chaps.
yeah, thank you guys very much. Much appreciated for this afternoon. Scott, can't wait to see you at Watch It.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Morris passes on his regards. He'll probably be ordering another pack of Doonicans ale soon because he's going to be running out soon. But yeah, but looking forward to watch it, and we'll see you guys down there. And yeah, hopefully we'll see everybody soon.
Indeed. Also, likewise, my regards to Bjorn and Alan, because I haven't really mentioned them. Cheers, Saul. Thanks very much, and we'll sign off with that one.
Cheers, Rick.
Cheers, guys.
Huzzah.